God is shaking your life not to break you, not to punish you, not to leave you confused forever, but to awaken what has been sleeping inside you, to move what has been stuck, to remove what has been draining you in silence. What feels like chaos right now is actually alignment in disguise. What feels like loss is often the space creation for what you could never receive while your hands were full of what no longer belonged. You are not being abandoned in the shaking. You are being repositioned. You are being redirected. You are being refined. And even though your mind may struggle to understand it, your spirit already knows that this season is not random. There are moments in life when everything feels unstable at once. Plans shift. People change. Doors close without warning. Emotions rise without explanation. Sleep becomes restless. The heart feels heavy without knowing exactly why. And in those moments, it is easy to think that life is falling apart. But many times, life is not falling apart, it is falling into place in ways you cannot yet perceive. God often shakes what is comfortable so that you will not settle for what is less than what He promised. God often disturbs the familiar because the familiar may be keeping you smaller than your true calling. There are prayers you once whispered when nobody else was listening. There were moments when you cried quietly, asking for change, asking for clarity, asking for relief, asking for purpose. You may have forgotten some of those prayers, but God has not. And now, the shaking you feel is not punishment, it is movement. It is response. It is the invisible hand of God rearranging what you could never rearrange on your own. Sometimes the things that are being shaken are not even bad things. They are just not meant to go with you into the next chapter. Some relationships were only meant for a season. Some dreams were only meant to prepare you for a bigger one. Some comforts were only meant to teach you rest, not to become your permanent home. God removes without hatred. God ends without cruelty. God closes doors with wisdom that sees farther than your present pain. You may be trying to hold on to what feels secure, but deep inside you know you have outgrown it. You feel the tension between who you were and who you are becoming. You feel the pull between fear and faith. The shaking is happening in that space. And the discomfort you feel is not because something is wrong with you, it is because something greater is trying to emerge through you. There are things God must break in order to bless. There are patterns He must interrupt in order to heal. There are beliefs He must dismantle in order to rebuild your confidence on truth instead of fear. When God shakes your life, He is often separating what is temporary from what is eternal, what is false from what is real, what is fear-driven from what is faith-built. You may not see clearly right now, but clarity is being formed in the shaking. You may not feel strong right now, but strength is being planted in the shaking. You may not feel hopeful right now, but hope is being born through the very pressure you wish would disappear. Pressure does not only crush, it also forms. Fire does not only destroy, it also purifies. Storms do not only damage, they also rearrange the landscape for new growth. There are parts of your heart that God is healing deeply right now, not on the surface where everyone can see, but in the hidden places where old wounds still live. There are disappointments that taught you to be cautious. There are betrayals that taught you to build walls. There are failures that taught you to doubt yourself. God is gently but firmly shaking those old lessons loose so He can replace them with truth. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are not behind. You are not disqualified. You are in transition. And transitions always feel uncertain. They feel lonely at times. They feel confusing at times. They feel slow at times. But the stillness you feel is not stagnation, it is preparation. The silence you feel is not absence, it is instruction being whispered in ways your mind cannot fully translate yet. The shaking is also revealing who you truly trust. When everything is stable, trust is easy. When everything is uncertain, faith becomes real. You are learning how to lean not on what you can control, but on who controls what you cannot. You are learning how to pray with honesty instead of performance. You are learning how to surrender without fully understanding. This is not weakness. This is maturity being built quietly. There will be moments when you feel like you are standing on shifting ground and you are afraid to take the next step. In those moments, remember that God does not require certainty before obedience. He only requires trust. You do not need to see the whole staircase. You only need enough light for the next step. And the more you move in faith, the more clarity follows. What is being taken from you right now is making room for what cannot fit in your life until the old is cleared away. What is being delayed is being protected. What is being changed is being aligned. And what is being shaken is being strengthened at the core. You may not like how this season feels, but one day you will recognize how necessary it was. You will look back and realize that the confusion saved you from a path that would have cost you deeply. You will realize that the loss protected you from a future that would have broken you. You will realize that the delay prepared you for a blessing that would have overwhelmed the old version of you. God is not dragging you backward. He is pulling you forward from places you had grown too comfortable to leave on your own. It is not easy to release what once felt like home. It is not easy to let go of what once brought you comfort. But comfort is not always connection to purpose. Sometimes comfort becomes the cage. There are gifts inside you that cannot remain hidden forever. There is a calling inside you that cannot stay quiet forever. There is strength inside you that cannot remain dormant forever. And the shaking is the awakening. You may feel right now like you are losing control, but control was never meant to be your security. God never promised that you would control the process, He promised that He would guide it. And guidance often feels like uncertainty at first. Leading often feels like wandering until direction becomes clear. Growth often feels like struggle before it feels like victory. Do not rush this season. Do not numb it. Do not run from it. Let it shape you. Let it teach you. Let it refine you. Let it show you where you have been relying on your own strength instead of God's. Let it expose where you have been settling for less than what your spirit truly desires. Let it push you into prayers that are deeper than words and trust that goes beyond logic. You are not weak for feeling overwhelmed. You are human. You are not faithless for feeling afraid. You are learning. You are not broken because you are tired. You are becoming resilient in ways you cannot yet measure. The shaking is also stripping away illusions. It is teaching you who truly stands with you and who was only standing near you. It is teaching you which voices lift you and which voices drain you. It is teaching you which battles are worth fighting and which ones were never meant to consume your energy. This clarity is not always gentle, but it is always valuable. There are moments in this season when you may feel like you are praying and nothing is changing. But beneath the surface, everything is changing. Roots grow in darkness. Seeds break in silence. Strength is formed in resistance. You are being built in ways that applause could never build you. God is also teaching you patience without stagnation, rest without laziness, faith without proof, peace without certainty. These are not small lessons. These are the foundations for the next level of your life. Without these foundations, the blessings you desire would collapse you instead of elevate you. You may be asking why this is taking so long. Why clarity has not come yet. Why your heart still feels unsettled. And the truth is, timing is not only about arrival, it is about readiness. Some things cannot manifest until your character, your mindset, and your faith are ready to sustain them. You do not see all the battles God has already won for you behind the scenes. You do not see all the protection you received that you never noticed. You do not see all the closed doors that saved you from unseen harm. One day, your hindsight will be filled with gratitude instead of confusion. The shaking is also aligning your desires. Some things you wanted in the past no longer excite you. Some things you once tolerated now feel unbearable. This is not inconsistency. This is growth. Your standards are rising because your perspective is changing. And perspective changes everything. There is also a deeper intimacy with God being formed in this season. When distractions fall away and noise fades, you learn how to recognize His voice in stillness. You learn the difference between emotional comfort and spiritual peace. You learn how to sit with Him without needing immediate answers. You learn how to trust Him even when your feelings fluctuate. You may feel alone at times, but you are never abandoned. You may feel overlooked at times, but you are never unseen. You may feel delayed at times, but you are never denied what truly belongs to you. Anything that misses you in this season was never meant to walk with you into the next one. There is courage being created in you right now. Not the loud kind that draws attention, but the quiet kind that keeps moving even when the heart feels tired. There is humility being formed in you. Not the kind that shrinks, but the kind that frees you from ego and comparison. There is discernment growing in you. Not the kind that judges, but the kind that protects your peace. God is shaking your life because He is deeply committed to who you are becoming, not just who you have been. He sees the future version of you with clarity you cannot yet understand. He sees the strength that will come from this pressure. He sees the compassion that will come from this struggle. He sees the wisdom that will come from this confusion. He sees the testimony that will rise from this season. There are people who will one day be encouraged by your story, even though right now you are still living the messy middle of it. There are hearts that will be strengthened because you did not quit in the shaking. There are paths that will be illuminated because you kept walking even when the light felt dim. Do not measure your progress by how stable things look on the outside. Measure it by how much more honest you are becoming with yourself, how much more aware you are of your needs, how much more aligned you are with truth, how much more dependent you are on God rather than on outcomes. You do not need to force what God is already orchestrating. You do not need to compete with anyone for what is meant for you. You do not need to beg for what is divinely assigned to your life. What is kept by God cannot be stolen by people. What is delayed by God is not denied by God. Even now, while things feel uncertain, grace is carrying you. Grace is covering your mistakes. Grace is filling the gaps where your strength runs out. Grace is whispering hope into the parts of you that feel tired of waiting. You may be tempted to go back to familiar pain instead of staying in unfamiliar growth. But familiar pain only repeats the cycle. Unfamiliar growth breaks it. And though growth feels risky, it is the only path that leads to freedom. Even now, as you continue walking through this season, there are subtle shifts happening inside you that you may not yet recognize. Your reactions are changing. Your tolerance for what once drained you is shrinking. Your hunger for truth, for peace, for meaning is growing louder. These are not random changes. These are signs that the shaking has already begun to purify your vision. You are no longer satisfied with surface-level living. Your soul is reaching for depth, and God is meeting you there. There are moments when you feel like you are standing between two worlds, the one you know and the one you cannot yet fully see. That in-between space is uncomfortable. It feels unstable. It feels lonely. It feels slow. But it is also sacred. It is the womb where transformation quietly takes place. You are not stuck. You are being formed. Sometimes God allows you to feel the weight of uncertainty so that you will finally lay down the heavy burden of self-reliance. You have carried so much by yourself for so long. You learned to be strong because you had no choice. You learned to survive because no one could save you in the ways you needed back then. But now God is teaching you a new kind of strength, the strength that comes from surrender, the strength that comes from knowing you do not have to carry everything alone. There are prayers you now whisper with open hands instead of clenched fists. There is a softer trust growing in you. Not the loud, confident kind that declares everything will be fine, but the quiet, steady kind that keeps walking even when the outcome is unknown. That kind of faith is not dramatic, but it is unshakable. You may feel like pieces of your old identity are falling away. Things you used to define yourself by no longer feel solid. Roles, titles, expectations, labels, they are loosening their grip. This can feel terrifying because familiarity gives a sense of safety. But God is gently reminding you that you are more than what you do, more than what you produce, more than what others expect from you. Your worth was never rooted in performance. It has always been anchored in His love. There are also hidden fears surfacing in this season. Fears you buried under busyness. Fears you silenced with distractions. Fears you avoided by staying constantly occupied. Now that life has slowed in certain areas and shaken in others, those fears are coming into the light, not to embarrass you, but to be healed. What is brought to light loses its power to control you in the dark. You may notice that your heart feels more sensitive lately. Things affect you more deeply. Words reach you more strongly. Silence feels heavier. This is not weakness. This is your heart becoming alive again after being in survival mode for so long. God is restoring your ability to feel fully, to love deeply, to hope boldly, to trust carefully but sincerely. There will be days when you wake up feeling strong and hopeful, and days when you wake up feeling tired and unsure. Do not condemn yourself for the fluctuation. Growth is not linear. Healing is not a straight line. Faith itself has seasons of flame and seasons of quiet embers. Both still carry fire. You are learning discernment in the shaking. You are learning how to listen beyond words and see beyond appearances. You are learning how to recognize what brings you peace and what only brings temporary comfort. This discernment will protect you in future seasons when choices become bigger and consequences become heavier. Some connections will naturally fade in this season, and it will hurt even if you understand why. Not everyone is meant to walk with you into the next chapter. Some people were assigned only to the version of you that is now being shed. Their departure is not rejection, it is repositioning. Their exit makes room for new alignments you have not yet met. You may feel grief over what is changing, even when you know it is necessary. Let yourself grieve. You are not weak for mourning old seasons. You are human. You invested time, emotion, energy, dreams. Letting go is still a loss, even when it is also a gain. There will be moments when your mind tells you to rush, to force clarity, to pressure answers, to demand resolution. But God often works at a pace that frustrates the impatient parts of us while healing the broken parts of us. What feels slow to you is often precise to Him. Your prayers may be simpler now. Less dramatic. More honest. Fewer words. Deeper sighs. Sometimes just quiet presence. These prayers are not weaker. They are purer. God hears the prayers you cannot put into sentences. He understands the tears that fall without explanation. He reads the questions you are afraid to ask out loud. You are also learning boundaries in this season, how to say no without guilt, how to protect your peace without explanation, how to step back without hatred. Boundaries are not walls meant to isolate you, they are gates meant to protect what God is rebuilding in you. There is a confidence being rebuilt in you that does not come from applause or affirmation. It comes from alignment. It comes from integrity. It comes from knowing who you are becoming even when no one else sees it yet. This confidence does not need to announce itself. It speaks through consistency, through restraint, through quiet courage. The shaking is teaching you to trust God's heart even when you do not understand His methods. You are learning that silence does not mean absence. Delay does not mean denial. Struggle does not mean failure. Waiting does not mean wasting. Everything is being woven into something greater than you can presently comprehend. There are moments when you will look at others and feel like they are moving faster than you, receiving sooner than you, celebrating earlier than you. Do not let comparison make you doubt your path. Different soils grow at different speeds, but that does not determine the value of the harvest. What God is preparing for you requires roots that go deep, not just branches that grow fast. You may not be where you once thought you would be. But that does not mean you are lost. It means your path looks different than your early expectations. And sometimes, different is exactly what leads you to destiny instead of fantasy. The elevation God is building toward is not just external. It is internal. It is the elevation of your character, your wisdom, your compassion, your discernment, your steadiness. External blessings without internal maturity become burdens instead of gifts. God is protecting you from that weight by shaping you first. When the shaking feels intense, return to what you know to be true. God is good. God is faithful. God is near. God is intentional. God is not careless with your life. God does not waste pain. God does not abandon what He has begun. There will come a day when you realize that you are no longer reacting the way you once did. That things that used to trigger you no longer control you. That people who once intimidated you no longer have power over you. That fear no longer drives every decision. That day will not arrive suddenly, it will arrive quietly, as the fruit of this season's hidden work. You will also find yourself dreaming again in new ways. Not always big, loud dreams, but honest ones. Peaceful ones. Aligned ones. Dreams that match who you are now, not who you were forced to be before. These dreams will feel more rooted, less frantic, more grounded in faith than in fear. Do not despise the simplicity that is returning to your life. Do not overlook the quiet joys that are beginning to replace old chaos. Peace does not always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it settles in like a gentle morning light. When doubts rise, and they will, do not wrestle them alone in your mind. Bring them to God. He is not offended by your questions. He is not threatened by your confusion. He is patient with your process. You are being taught endurance without bitterness, patience without resignation, hope without illusion. These lessons will carry you through storms you have not yet seen and blessings you cannot yet imagine. And even now, while the shaking continues, God is already securing the foundation beneath your feet. What He is rebuilding will not collapse easily. What He is restoring will not be fragile. What He is preparing will not be shallow. You are closer than you think. Not necessarily to the end, but to the shift. The shift in understanding. The shift in freedom. The shift in peace. The shift in identity. The shift in faith. Hold on. Not with clenched fists of fear, but with open hands of trust. The same God who allowed the shaking is the same God who controls the outcome. He will not drop you in the process. He will not abandon you in the transition. He will not fail you in the waiting. There will come a moment, quiet, unannounced, when you realize that the shaking has slowed. Not because everything has suddenly become perfect, but because you have changed. The fear that once made your heart race no longer has the same grip. The uncertainty that once paralyzed you no longer defines your steps. You will still face questions, but they will no longer steal your peace. You will still face challenges, but they will no longer steal your identity. You will notice that your prayers sound different. Less desperate. More trusting. Less about control. More about surrender. You will no longer beg God to fix everything instantly. You will begin to trust Him even when the answer is, not yet. And this trust will not feel forced. It will feel earned, built through nights of uncertainty, mornings of waiting, and days of quiet endurance. One day, you will look back at the version of yourself who first entered this season, and you will feel compassion. You will see how tired you were, how confused you were, how deeply you were trying to hold everything together while silently falling apart. And instead of shame, you will feel gratitude, because that version of you did not quit. That version of you kept going even when hope felt fragile. That version of you trusted God with trembling faith, and that was enough. You will also begin to see how God's hand was present in moments you once questioned. Conversations that redirected you. Delays that protected you. Closed doors that saved you from settling. Detours that taught you patience. You will realize that what you once called confusion was often divine interruption. What you once called loss was often divine mercy. What you once called waiting was often divine preparation. There will be a softness in your heart that did not exist before, but it will not be weakness. It will be compassion. You will understand pain in others more deeply because you have walked through your own. You will listen instead of rushing to judge. You will encourage instead of competing. You will uplift instead of comparing. And this quiet strength will become one of your greatest gifts. You will also notice how your relationships begin to shift. You will no longer chase people who are unsure about you. You will no longer beg for attention, love, or validation. Not because you have grown cold, but because you have grown clear. You will choose peace over chaos. Depth over distraction. Alignment over approval. God will begin to place new people in your life, people who understand your silence, honor your boundaries, respect your growth, and walk with you without needing to control you. These connections may not arrive loudly. They may enter gently, steadily, thoughtfully. But they will feel different. Safer. Healthier. More aligned with who you have become. You will also find that the dreams in your heart have changed shape. Some old dreams will quietly fade, not because they were wrong, but because they belong to a version of you that no longer exists. And new dreams will rise, more aligned, more grounded, more connected to purpose than to ego. These dreams may not impress everyone, but they will bring you peace. And peace will matter more to you now than applause ever did. You will no longer measure success the way you once did. It will not be only about speed, recognition, or outcomes. It will be about obedience, consistency, integrity, and peace. You will realize that moving slowly in the right direction is far more powerful than running quickly in the wrong one. There will still be days when doubt whispers. Days when fear tries to revisit. Days when your past tries to remind you of who you used to be. But you will no longer live there. You will visit briefly, learn what you need to learn, and return to the present with renewed clarity. The past will no longer be your prison, it will be your reminder of how far God has brought you. You will also come to understand that faith is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward even when fear still speaks. And you will move forward, not recklessly, not arrogantly, but courageously, with a quiet confidence that says, God has carried me through worse than this. You will understand that God never wanted to break you, He wanted to free you. Free you from the expectations that suffocated you. Free you from the attachments that weakened you. Free you from the mindset that limited you. Free you from the past that kept replaying in your heart. The shaking was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to unlock you. And one day, when someone comes to you in the middle of their own shaking, confused, tired, afraid, you will not speak from theory. You will speak from experience. You will say, I know it hurts. I know it doesn't make sense right now. I know it feels like everything is falling apart. But I promise you, God is not done with you. And your words will carry weight because they were forged in your own waiting. You will begin to notice joy returning, not the loud, temporary kind that depends on circumstances, but the deep, steady kind that remains even when life is imperfect. You will laugh again without forcing it. You will rest again without guilt. You will hope again without fear of disappointment controlling you. You will walk with a new awareness that every season, even the painful ones, carries purpose. That nothing in your story was wasted. That even the delays built discipline. Even the heartbreak built compassion. Even the confusion built discernment. Even the loneliness built intimacy with God. And when the next storm comes, and it will, because life always has more chapters, you will not collapse the way you once did. You will stand steadier. You will breathe deeper. You will pray differently. You will trust more quickly. Because once you have seen God carry you through the shaking, you never question His faithfulness the same way again. You will remember the nights you cried in silence. The mornings you woke up with a heavy heart. The days you questioned everything. And instead of pain, those memories will now carry gratitude, because those were the days God was shaping you in ways comfort never could. You will realize that the greatest miracle was not just the external breakthrough, but the internal transformation. You will realize that the real blessing was not just what changed around you, but what changed within you. You will realize that you did not just survive the shaking, you were reborn through it. And in quiet moments, when life finally feels steady again, you will feel a gentle awareness in your spirit that whispers, this is why you had to go through that. This is why the ground had to shift. This is why the old had to fall away. And your heart will finally understand what your mind could not grasp at the beginning. So if you are reading this right now still in the middle of the shaking, still uncertain, still waiting, still wondering, hold on. Not because everything will suddenly be easy, but because everything will become meaningful. God is not finished with you. He is still shaping, still aligning, still restoring, still preparing. You were never meant to stay where you were shaken. You were only meant to be shaped there. And the same God who allowed the storm will lead you into the calm. Not because you earned it, but because He is faithful. And when that calm finally arrives, when your heart finally rests, when your spirit finally exhales, when your faith finally smiles, you will know with full certainty that the shaking was not the end of your story. It was the moment your true story began.